How's it going, guys? My name is Tavarish, and if you'd ask anybody what their ultimate Ferrari is, you'd probably get an answer like an F40, an Enzo, or a LaFerrari. But not me. You see, for me, my ultimate dream Ferrari was always the 430 Scuderia, because I loved its simplicity, its styling, and its performance. But I didn't love its price tag because I could never afford one. Until about 2 years ago, when I bought one that looked like this. Now, this car needed absolutely everything, and I figured since we're building it, we might as well build it better. So I'm super excited to say that in this episode, we're finishing this Ferrari, and if you're a Ferrari purist, then you might as well turn this off because you're not gonna like this video. So close your eyes and listen to this. Even if you know nothing about cars, you'll know that that's the sound of a Ferrari. But here's what mine sounded like when I got it. I bought this wrecked 430 Scuderia 2 years ago because I thought it would be a quick project, but boy, was I wrong. Jack and I took the car completely apart, measured the body more times than I can count, fitted a new front end, rear quarter panel, and sanded the car until we couldn't feel our arms anymore. Then it was painted a custom shade of white and put back together, but not before a few modifications went in. Now this is a center lock, which means that the wheel just goes on this center hub versus a regular car which just has 5 lugs. And this looks super, super cool. And it's also a real race car part. Now up here you can see there's another center lock, and here's one of the center lock wheels, which we had powder coated, and this is in a prismatic silver. This looks really, really cool, almost like a chrome effect. Coming in here, you'll notice that, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here, a lot of hoses and wires. But this guy, that is a steering rack from a Ferrari 430 Challenge, which means that the steering is going to be actually a lot tighter than even the Scuderia. This is less than 2 turns lock to lock. So this should be quite spicy when it comes to handling. But today we're going to be working on something on the interior of this car, and that is the fact that it don't got no shifter. There's no shifter there because these cars were never made with manual transmissions. These always had the F1 flappy paddle transmissions, which were okay. They were actually very good in this car, but we can do better. I want that manual transmission, that gated manual transmission feel in this car, and there's only one way to do it, and that is to convert. And the guy that I have here is the guy that made all this possible. So this is Art from EAG.
It just flew in.
You literally just flew in.
Just landed.
And boy, are your arms tired. Art and I are literally going to be speed running this transmission install.
As quick as possible. As
quick as possible. Now, when I say transmission install, you don't actually have to take out the transmission, except for the fact that you do in my case, right?
Yeah, we're gonna, actually we put a bore scope in there and we saw potentially there's a leak from the throwout bearing. So we're gonna pull the transmission out, rebuild the throwout bearing, put it all back together, and put all the 6-speed components on.
You make it sound so easy. It is Tuesday afternoon. This car has to be on a trailer Thursday night.
We're driving it tonight.
Please do not say that.
It's possible.
Okay, let's get to work.
All right.
Taking apart a Ferrari is just like taking apart any other car, except if you break something, the parts are impossible to find at worst and wallet destroying at best. Art and I were very careful taking off the airbox and draining the 430's very expensive fluids. The axles were unbolted, as were the bell housing bolts, allowing the transaxle to slide backwards, revealing something quite surprising.
So we have some good news and some very good news. Now, this is a transmission or a transaxle for a Ferrari 430, and we have moved it back so we can see in here, and you'll see right there, that is the clutch, and the clutch looks fantastic. What we need to do is see if the actual seal on the throwout bearing is good,
And thankfully, it is. And that's because, well, when we took a look with the borescope, Art said, well, it looks a little bit weepy, it looks a little bit wet. So we decided to take it off anyway. We didn't know what that could have been. And pleasantly surprised, it was good.
It's replaced.
I wanted to talk about the kit that you made to make this into a manual transmission car. And we have that kit over here. And let's just go over some of the parts, because these are really, really cool. And the kit actually isn't that big. This is everything you need, because you still retain the same transmission, and you just have a really, really cool gated shifter, and some shifter cables, a new mechanism to engage the gears on the transmission, a new pedal, and a bunch of stuff for the clutch. But this is not OEM Ferrari, right?
No, it's not. Everything is billet CNC. We actually did this in a modular design so that we can make it work with other models like the 599, 575, instead of making all brand new components and spending the the R&D.
I just got to do this. Okay, so this is all CNC'd. It's really nice, but oh, dude, that's so cool. So now we know that everything on the trans is okay. We can just put it back together. And in theory, we didn't have to take it apart, but we saw that it was a little bit wet. That was actually just assembly lube, and I'm very glad that we saw that, because in the process of taking everything out, we found out that there's a ton of bolts that were just loose, like hand tight. So we can tighten everything down, torque to spec, and then put everything back. So you said that we'll be done with this in about, what, 30 minutes?
30 minutes?
30 minutes, yeah.
29.
29 minutes.
All right, let's get to it.
Okay, yeah. It is not 30 minutes. It's gonna take a while.
As all three of us crammed into the back end, we quickly got all the bolts in place to fit the transaxle. Then came the new center lock wheels so we can roll the car off the lift. And since the computer wasn't controlling the gearbox anymore, we needed to install some modifications, provided in the kit, to make it all work. We then installed the actual physical shifter cables to connect the new gated 6-speed shifter to the gearbox. This was Art's specialty, so I let him get on with it while I did something equally as important.
So I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a big fan of decorating my house or my shop for the holidays, but I'm not a big fan of taking lights down and then putting them back up when the next holiday arrives. Thankfully, today's sponsor, Govee, has some lights that are gonna blow your mind. Govee has lights for all your demands. They have outdoor lights, they have spotlights, they have Christmas tree lights, they have underglow lights. Those are really cool. Now my shop is super high, so I had to rent a scissor lift, but for a regular house, all you need is a ladder. And they are super durable. They're able to hold their own against even the extreme weather conditions in Florida. So now that we have all our lights up and I'm feeling a lot more festive, I wanted to show you my favorite function of these Govee lights, and that is Dream View. So those curtain lights up there, you can actually sync them together and put a custom scene on it. And you see, I already have my custom scene, but you can change it to whatever you want. I got a little traffic scene, a little submarine, and since we're in the festive spirit, a Santa Claus. This is very silly. I feel very silly. These lights are awesome. Now the app is super easy to use and allows me to switch up different holiday decor every night. And when there's no holiday, you can choose whatever color you want. So definitely hit the link in the description below and check out their entire selection. It's totally worth it. Go check it out right now.
One of the most stressful things you can do on a car is cut carbon fiber. And modifying this center console certainly took some years off my life. I carefully used a Dremel with a carbide bit and made an adequate hole so the shifter had a place to go. Then came the moment of truth. One of the EAG guys would start up the car and run through the gears for the very first time. And naturally, my fingers were crossed.
Just running on like 4 cylinders, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't, yeah. That's fine.
Does that
Either no leaks or no fluid. Oh yeah. Look at that. Look at that. We have forward motion. Do we have reverse? Oh, we got reverse.
Look at the lights. Come look at the lights.
What are the lights doing? Whoopsie. So how's it feel?
I mean, your brakes work.
Brakes work? Oh, nice. What about the clutch?
Clutch is good. You just got to program the cluster. ECU's already programmed. And then as soon as you get your job done, then we can take it out.
Awesome, let's do it.
Now I'd love to say I got to work immediately, but that would be a lie. The reality was, I took the car's suspension apart several months after Art and his team had left, because I bought a certain flooded hypercar and it was taking up all my time and sanity. But in any case, the 430 needed some custom parts installed if I ever had any hope of actually driving the thing down the road.
Okay, now that we have this hub removed, I'm gonna tell you why I took it off. Now, I don't know if you know this, but not a lot of people have done this conversion to a road car, and there's a reason why. It's because, well, I'm gonna get a little geeky here. This is the ABS sensor, it's also the speed sensor, and this on the race car is different from the road car. Now, I got a brand new one because I figured if we're gonna be changing stuff, why not get new? But the road car actually has a different signal than the race car. And since we have a road car, that's not gonna work. We're not gonna get a speedometer. We're gonna get a bunch of error lights on the dash. We don't want that. So I figured out a way that we can merge these two and sort of Lego it together. But it's gonna take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears because they don't make this easy. So what I have to do is I have to take off the axle nut inside here. There actually is a little stub axle thing. The problem is it has like indents because that's the way you put these axle nuts on. You have to dent them in to make sure that they don't move. The problem is when you're taking these off, you have to out-dent them. And it's really hard because it's like 4 inches deep in here. And I'm gonna have to use some persuasion tools. We got the axle nut rebuilder 5000 over here. And I am going to try to take out this axle nut. Then I have to press this entire thing out using a hydraulic press. And then we're gonna put it into our new thing, and then hopefully it should all work. I've never done this before. This might not work, but I feel like it should. Please pray for me. What I'm doing is I'm trying to use the hammer of the impact gun to sort of like bounce the nut off, to sort of get the nut up. I'm trying to separate these two pieces. See, this is the ABS ring, speed sensor ring, and you see these little notches? So the amount of notches that are on here is different from the amount of notches that's on the road car. The reason why I can't just put this one onto this is because this is like a magnet, and there's a little ring here that it reads, and it has to be a specific distance away. And this is plastic and very, very soft metal. So if I were to put this on, I could never get it to align 100%. So I just got a brand new one. The only way to really take this out is by destroying it. And I'm sure that there's some Ferrari techs that are agreeing with me right now, but For those of you screaming on your couches, never having touched a Ferrari, this is absolutely the way to do it. Ha ha! Ha ha! Look at that. Almost like I know what I'm doing. Almost. Look at that. And then we have our stub axle, and then we have our nut. Now what we have here is a 20-ton hydraulic press, and what it does is it exerts hydraulic pressure in order to press things out or push things in. It is a time-consuming process, this. And you just want to make contact with the inner part of the bearing, and then just press it out. There we go. And I believe she is out. Haha! And that's how you do it on a brand new Ferrari hub. And the thing that we're interested in is this guy right here. You can see it's brand new, all the seals are intact, and all we did was press out the bearing. And all we have to do is put in the center lock, and it should slide right in. There we go. That's all it needed. Right there. Boom. Race car parts on our road car. So the thing we can do off the car is we can torque it to spec, and this is 275 Newton meters. I don't know what that is in foot-pounds, but it's probably a lot. See, when you start moving the entire table, that's when you know. And that's all it takes. Oh, okay, good. And now we put our little dimples into this thing. Don't know how we're gonna do that. It's gonna look like a murder scene in here. Put that back in the car and torque things to spec. Hopefully things go back because it's been a while since I put this all together. And then start the car, do an alignment, do a test drive, then realize things are wrong and then come and do this all over again. Now this car has quite a history, and I know that history because I was looking for a bad car. But if you're not like me and looking for an actually good car, then how do you know that vehicle's history? Thankfully, we have Car Vertical, and you can see everything about a car's vehicle history before you buy it.
Not only is Car Vertical the most complete vehicle history report you can get, but it's more affordable and easier to use than the competitors. With their new website and app available on the App Store and Google Play, it's never been simpler to research the history of your next vehicle. And in the case of a certain McLaren P1, I know that there weren't any discrepancies in its mileage, no records of loss or theft anywhere in the world, and other than the one slight run-in with some inclement weather, there weren't any surprises, which to me makes Car Vertical worth its weight in gold. It's absolutely essential that you research any car before you buy it, and with my special discount code, it's a no-brainer.
Now one feature I really love about Car Vertical is that you can see the pictures before and after an accident. So if your car was ever in a salvage lot, you'll know it and you'll know exactly the condition it was in. Now definitely go check out Car Vertical in the link in my video description, and you can have 10% off with my discount code. It is super worth it. Go check it out right now.
I would say installation is reverse of removal, but there are a few crucial steps to make sure my newly assembled hubs don't come apart at highway speeds. First, the axle nut is dimpled with a punch to make sure it doesn't move. This is much harder than it looks. Then, the wheel bearing assembly is bolted to the hub using medium strength thread locker and then torquing to factory specs. And because there are 1,000 bolts on this car that I can't remember tightening, I marked all the torque bolts so I know which ones I missed.
Yeah, you can tell a lot about a man by the way he polishes his bolts.
Then it's time to put the brake assembly on with both control arms and steering rack, taking care to route the brake lines and electrical connectors properly behind the hub. Everything is torqued to spec and marked because this all falling apart would ruin my weekend. Then I dimple the rest of the already torqued axle nuts and move to the actual wheel nuts, which are a little different than your garden variety lug nut.
Now I bet some of you are wondering how to torque down a center lock wheel. Well, it turns out you need one of these. It's a very, very large torque wrench because it goes to something like 600 Newton meters, which is about 450-ish foot-pounds. So one cool thing about this car is that one side is reverse thread and the other side is regular thread. I can't remember which one is which, but we're gonna find out. Also, this torque wrench costs about 600 bucks. And the thing that you put on the wheel, that's another $500. Oh, so that's good. So the wheel's moving and the car's on the ground. Jack, can you get in the car and press the brake? Now we can go get alignment. So the only lights I have on the dash are for the tire pressure monitor, and I think we just need to drive it a little bit. But sport mode works, race mode works, traction control off, stability control off, everything works.
And with that bit of good news, I limped the car to Lake County Euros and had Frankie, the owner, drive the car on his alignment rack to see how well our eyeball alignment actually held up. Spoiler alert, not very well.
So this red right here means that we are towed out. What that means is instead of the tires going straight, they're like this. And that means that one tire is trying to go right, one tire is trying to go left, and yeah, it's not good for tire wear or handling or really anything. This has to be green. These guys have to be green. Hopefully they can be green.
After what seemed like no time at all, the alignment machine lit up green and the Ferrari was ready to drive down the road for the very first time. I can't begin to tell you how good it was to, and it's back on the lift because something broke.
So we just took the car out for a drive. I'm sorry I didn't have this on camera. It was literally just down the block. But we need to adjust the pedal for the clutch because it engages way at the top. It means that the amount of engagement and disengagement is like, it's this small. So we don't want anything burning out the clutch potentially. So we'll adjust that, and then we have to adjust the shifter itself because if I have any more than like 50% throttle, it just kind of locks me out of a gear, which is not good for a manual transmission.
Now that problem wouldn't have been good for a Honda Civic, but for a $250,000 Ferrari that I had modified to be the ultimate stick shift experience, it was absolutely unacceptable. So with the help of Jack and Rex, I bled the clutch and tried to adjust the shifter. I drove up and down the block for the next 2 hours, making small adjustments and dialing the shifter in. But for some reason, it just didn't feel right. Until I had the wonderful idea to simply call up Art at EAG and have him explain how to align everything to factory specs. Now, I didn't know for sure if I had figured out my issue, but since it was getting late, I waited until the next morning to button everything up and find out if my efforts over the last 2 years had been worth it.
And now the time has come. I can finally show you what's under here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my new Ferrari 430 Scuderia. Okay. So, this is the first inaugural drive of my gated manual Ferrari 430 Scuderia, and hopefully nothing should go wrong. I should knock on carbon. I am very nervous. Key in the ignition. Check okay. There's no warning lights or anything, and then engine start. Ooh. Oh, that's good. I do have to say, there is a service light on for the TPMS sensors. Unfortunately, I didn't get the correct sensors for the front wheels, so we do have a light on for that, but I checked the tires. They seem full of air. I think we're okay, but we don't have any issues with the sport, race, the traction control off, and stability control. So we can turn all of that off, except for the fact that we're not going to do that because I am not a very good driver, especially not on a car that I am very unfamiliar with. All right, this also has a F430 Challenge steering rack, which means that the steering is really quite quick. All right, shift in a second. Oh, this is so good! Listen to that engine! This is fantastic. Now this is the Ferrari experience that I've wanted for a very long time. And I have the windows down. I'm sorry about the wind noise, but you guys gotta hear this. And one more. And that exhaust, that S-line exhaust, I still have the cats back there, but it just sounds, it sounds a lot more exotic. It sounds like a Ferrari. It's a real Michael Schumacher Ferrari. So at this point, I want to say thank you to everybody that made this build possible. Number one, I want to thank Recover, because Recover, without them, I couldn't do anything on this build. They have been such good supporters of this entire build. Definitely go check them out in the link in the video description below. But another thank you, another big thank you, has to go to Jack. Now, Jack has put this car together essentially from scratch. We took two broken Ferraris and put them together into one amazing looking car. Now you should definitely go check out Jack on his channel. He does the kind of work that he did on this car, but on his own car, on his own channel. Jack builds it. So definitely go check that out. But I want to thank Lewis, the guy who painted this car. I want to thank Fur Parts for getting a lot of the parts that we have on this car right now. And of course, I want to thank Art from EAG, the guys in Texas that allowed me to do this amazing manual conversion. And right now, it is absolutely flawless. I can shift through all the gears. It feels fantastic. And the transmission, the Super Fast 2 transmission, actually makes things a little bit more crisp and a little bit more smooth. This thing is fantastic. Like, oh my goodness. I wish you guys were in this car right now feeling what I feel. And last but not least, I want to thank all of you guys, because without your support, without you guys watching this video and this build, then there would be no point to it. I'm so glad and I'm so happy that I get to do this for a living because you guys watch these videos and enjoy them. So thank you so much. It means more than words can say. So I guess I'll just let the car do the talking. Oh yeah! Oh. So that doesn't get old. That doesn't, yeah, that, not even a little bit.